eating for your best productive self, even as, young as maybe they are 3 years old, they can understand. And even when they are younger than that, you need to be, playing your role to introduce them to these foods, because sometimes they don't get into this particular lifestyle when they're older, because they're just seeing alien foods at a very late stage in their lives. And so it's very hard for them to actually eat, much more healthy. They were so used to, maybe easy, quick foods to prepare. And most of these are going to be processed foods. So I think, once you even start, weaning these kids off, start introducing maybe a carrot puree to them, you introduce a pumpkin soup to them, so that when they're older, it's not a very difficult exam for them. They're like, okay, what is this? I only know about noodles, I only know about spaghetti and Viennas and sausages, frankfurters. So what is all this weird stuff they're putting in front of me? So I think it's also upon us, the parents, relatives, caretakers, schools as well. Even the government should be, trying to formulate messages like this when it comes to health, so that, people can actually start to adapt this lifestyle. And we'll find that it's not only individual health statuses that are changing, but even the general, health status of the nations will actually, really improve and be enhanced. So they say 30, for anti-aging, but really we should be starting at a very, very early age. As soon as we can start eating food, we need to be teaching those young kids when to do that. I forgot the second question. What was the second question?
It was actually embedded in what you've answered, so you've actually answered it all.
Okay.
So again, food.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe I could give you like a sample diet picture of what an anti-aging diet would be, because we talked about the categories, but what are these foods in the layman's language?
That's where we are
these.
going.
Oh, okay. Let me let you lead.
Yes, absolutely, and that was my next question: the recipes and simple diet chart, maybe.
Okay. So some of these really important foods for anti-aging, which will contain the antioxidants, the polyphenols, moisturizing foods, healthy oils. We talked about, especially nuts and seeds. And I think people have neglected nuts and seeds so much that our bodies are failing us, because we are failing to reap so much of the benefits that these provide. Nuts and seeds have such a high, content of different minerals and vitamins, and that's so important, because these are what form the basis for the antioxidants, work like supportive to these antioxidants we're talking about. So having nuts and seeds is very, very important. Earlier on, actually, Geros, alluded to proteins. Proteins are also really important, because they are the mechanic of the body. Like we said, they're going to help you just put together what is, starting to fail, what is starting to break down, or, just generate new structures if there needs to be generated. So proteins are also very important. But we should also, as we look at the proteins, we should, try to also weigh in and see, yes, I'm using these animal proteins, for example, beef, but there is also the saturated fat that comes with them. So I should have it moderately, and then still have other protein foods, beans, peas, peanuts, on the other days. So yeah, proteins are pretty important. We talked about the colorful vegetables and fruits. So your diet should be a rainbow. If your diet is specifically made of green because they told you green juices are the it thing, then you are defaulting elsewhere. So you need to make sure that you're having so many other colors. You need to have that maroon from liver. You need to have that, is it brown from nuts? You need to have that orange from pumpkin. You need to have black from black rice. You need to have brown from, millet. You really need to have a vast array of colors, because these colors also depict pigments that are very useful for health and anti-aging as well. Sugar, we have to take a break on that. When I clocked 30, I told myself no sugar in your tea. Actually, no sweetener. So I do my herbal teas plain and simple the way they are. And it's very rewarding because you see how you have more energy. Your body is not strained. It's not overloaded, with so much sugar to process. So it's important that we, stay away from sugar, especially as we get older. Even for the young kids, like we said, it should be training from, an early age. Whole grains is so important. Whole grains is so important because of the fiber that they have. And also, unfortunately, for those that were trying to avoid them, just right under the fiber, you will find the vitamins, B vitamins especially. So we need to have whole grains so you can benefit the most from all these very helpful nutrients for anti-aging. So we're looking at, and I know people talk about wheat and say, wheat is such a bad idea, and gluten and all this and that, but there's whole wheat as well, so you can, instead of having this yellow chapati you want to have, you can have the chapati that looks a little more like, millet flour color because you're having whole wheat being used in your, chapati. You could have, instead of dull brown bread, because they've actually used whole wheat to make that bread. And for those that are really against the wheat, there are so many other things these days that are being used to, manufacture healthier food products. For example, people have gone away from just using wheat to make bread. They are now using pumpkin flour. Others are using sweet potato flour to make bread, to make cake, and that would be a much healthier option with so much more for you to benefit from. So whole grains are so important. If you can get, the whole wheat, if you can get wheat bran as well. Everyone thinks wheat bran is food for chicken. It's chicken feed. It's so degrading. It's for, someone that is really poor and impoverished, but that's not the case at all. As much as it is cheap, I mean, you go to a supermarket and find wheat bran at about Ugandan shillings 1,800, and you're like, what? A full 500-gram pack at 1,800, not knowing that what that 1,800 is actually offering you is a whole 2 more years maybe of better skin, better stomachs, better digestion as well. So whole grains, also whole foods, meaning eat your food as much as possible in its whole nature, because then you benefit so much from it not being ripped of its nutrients. When you start to process foods, usually to attain a white color or a pleasant smell or a better texture, then they start to rip off the natural nutrients that are embedded in these foods when you just pick them from the ground, or how they have been reared in the case of animals. And then you start to have these foods being deficient in what they originally were supposed to provide you with. So having foods whole is also a very important principle for anti-aging. Another one that I found quite interesting for Uganda especially is sprouting. Sprouting is when you have legumes or pulses. Legumes or pulses is the beans, peas, mung beans, lentils. So you have those, and then people tend, when they start to germinate, there are those little outgrowths that they have, like little white sticks that come out of them as they start to germinate. So at that stage, they are sprouting, and that is when they offer you the highest levels of whatever nutrients that, say, peas is supposed to provide you with. So that is when it's at its highest potential as a food for you. And that's when we should be having these, because then you'll have an excess or a higher intake of the antioxidants we talked about, the fiber we talked about. And I was told recently, actually, on the Facebook page that I do have, nutrition wellness, page, someone was saying, I was telling them, yeah, we should actually be sprouting these things more. I don't see a lot of that in Uganda yet. We are blessed with a vast array of pulses. And someone was actually saying, hey, we're supposed to eat them in that state. Me, I always first remove those outgrowths. And when I go to the market, I also find the market women first removing those outgrowths and then, selling to you the plain nice ball. And yet again, you are removing what is really important for health. So sprouting is a very important aspect as well for anti-aging because of the fiber it's going to provide you. It's one of the ways to make sure you have a very healthy gut lining, gut system. Actually, if you have leaky gut syndrome, diabetes, where you are trying to manage sugar and control sugar, that fiber from those sprouts is excellent for you. That's about it.
That sums up everything. So one question I wanted to ask is about protein. You full well know that in our environment, I don't know if this is global, we always eat in a protein deficiency. Most of us do not meet our recommended dietary allowance of protein according to the guidelines. And some people will end up, rushing for supplements very fast. So I have this guy right here. I don't know if you're able to see this.
Whey, I can see it. Whey.
Yes. So
isolate whey.
Yeah, this is isolate. So most people are taking these things is whey a healthy protein supplement. Because most people come to my house and find this bottle of whey, they say, man, you're training, but you're not natural because you're using this supplement. And yet, as far as I know, this is one of the elements in milk, because I know milk has two elements, has casein and then the whey protein. Only that in Uganda we are unable to preserve the whey very well, and then we end up consuming skimmed milk, which is basically casein protein. So how healthy is whey? I wanted to alleviate fears for most people fearing to take whey, thinking that actually it's a bulking supplement, thinking that who go to the gym are the only people who are supposed to take whey, and yet it should be a supplement maybe for everyone else there. Maybe I want a view on that from you.
Okay, so when it comes to whey, especially if you get isolate whey, that is the most absorbable form of this particular protein. That's really healthy for our bodies. But the thing is, we have different physical activity levels. So you might find, Geros is, he goes hard in the gym. So, he's working out, he's doing all this, and he might have a higher requirement for protein. And because his muscles need to actually, recuperate, they need to actually bulk up, then he's going to need to have higher amounts of whey. But whey protein is also very essential for the normal, you just have a mediocre physical activity level, or you're the lazy couch potato. Whey protein is really important because we already talked about how important protein in itself is. Now imagine you have the most absorbable form, the most bioavailable form of it. That is the one, isolate whey. So if you're able to, grab some, you may not have it as much as, Geros or a person that is going for Mr. Uganda championships is having, but you would still need to have it, because if you also realize, even if you watch movies, you'll find that everyone these days makes sure they have a protein shake in the morning, a protein smoothie in the morning. Everyone is blending their things nowadays. It's not for nothing. It's because protein is a very important nutrient for vitality, for recuperating, because we're always working and using these parts of our bodies. So there has to be something that is protecting them, and that's what protein does. So if you can have a form that is the best loved by your body, in this case isolate whey, then you definitely go for it. Definitely go for it.
And absolutely. So someone was telling me that he thinks whey is unhealthy, but then taking lacto milk, which is powdery, taking needle, which is powdery, is now, healthy and natural. So it was a little bit of a contradiction. So but because they didn't have a lot